hills of Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, March 10th. LA Galaxy getting prepped and ready to play on that plastic grass again. Headed up to Seattle this time and taking on a winless, we'll say winless in quotation marks, a winless Seattle Sounders team. Greg Vanney had some things and some thoughts to talk about, or at least to say about that game. We're going to get you that audio coming from the press conference that was today. The Galaxy announced a new defender, somebody we knew it was coming, but it was finally announced. Eriq Zavaleta was announced by the LA Galaxy today, and he's going to join us in about 3 or 4 minutes. All right, so everybody can be prepared for that. Basically, we're going to get you through all the LA Galaxy news and get you ready for that Seattle game. It's easy. It's simple. We're going to try to keep it simple. To help us on this wonderful night, he is back. We're always glad to have him. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. Christian Miles. Christian, how's it going, buddy?
Going great. Locked away in the Miles family safe room right now. Kids are out there being read to, going to bed. So I think we'll be free of interruption, but I'm looking forward to it. Great start for the Galaxy. Lots to talk about and new signings. I mean, it's all happening. I'm excited, Josh.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're excited. I like the whole idea that you think you're confident in the fact the kids are going to go to bed. So I really appreciate that. Already your optimism is flowing out tonight.
You, as a father, can appreciate this. There's a reason why we deadbolt every bedroom door in the house. So the next thing, like you probably have in your COG studio, which, by the way, big ups to that. I like it. I mean, you and Panda were talking about it. It looks great. I like it.
We're trying. You know, slowly. I'm allowed to add anything to this room I want, Christian, because I'm a man and I have a house and I'm allowed to do that as long as it can be taken down because the actual person who's in charge of the house uses this room. So
Did she let you put the egg carton foam on the walls, to soundproof it?
So I have been thinking about doing that. Just I don't know. It has to probably be a pretty color in order to get it done. But there is a wall that I'm speaking at that sometimes can get a little bouncy, and so I would like to tone it down a little bit. I'm trying to think. It's just this is an interesting week for the Galaxy. It's like busy, but it's not busy. Greg says that he's been thankful for the full week to be able to recover. He's going to continue to say that throughout this season as well. Last year with the condensed schedule and the midweek games and all that fun stuff, it was not fun for him, and it wasn't fun for the guys. There was no time to train, so basically you're having to learn everything out on the field. So he's you can tell he's excited the fact that they have time to work on these things, that he was even talking about like individual stuff that people could do. And he was like, we've been working a lot as a team. We need to work on some individual stuff. And we have time to do that. It's one of those things. It's kind of fun to sort of see that happening.
Well, every manager likes that because, Greg's a tactical nerd. Let's be honest. And if he can work on it, he likes to talk about it. He likes to implement it in training, I'm sure. But anytime any manager, any head coach can get his, players onto the training pitch and actually rectify matters and work on things, especially at this age of the season right now, how young and how early it is right now. Guys trying to get acclimated to the system here in year 2 and get their match fitness. So training sessions kind of take a higher value right about now, I think.
It feels like that. We're going to get into a lot of that, what Greg Vanney said, and a lot of different things. But if I've pressed all the right buttons and done all the right things, joining us on the phone right now is the man who who was announced today. We knew he was coming, as we said, but it finally happened. It was there. Welcome to the Corner of the Galaxy here, defender Eriq Zavaleta. Eriq, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we did it, Christian. What do you know? I pressed the right buttons. All right. Eriq, congratulations. I know we got to talk a little bit today whenever you were having your media availability. But it's just such an interesting story and you talked a little bit about it, being at Chivas USA, looking across the hallway and seeing the LA Galaxy win championships, and the fact that you grew up sort of watching this club. I mean, it has to feel a little surreal, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. Some of these photos that I posted today, and I've gotten a few more sent to me from when I was a kid, from my mom today as well. I forgot about it. So I remember those days. I remember JP Delacambra on the call many times. I remember Kobe Jones. I remember so many of the players. And so it was the club that I definitely supported the most growing up. And so to be able to put the jersey on is pretty cool for me, especially at this stage of my career.
Yeah, it seems, and you were talking, and I thought it was super interesting, and this is what I really keyed off on, was you were just talking about championship teams, and so often on this program, we talk about what it takes to be a championship team, right? I've covered the LA Galaxy all the way through their three titles, 2011, 2012, and 2014, and seeing those teams and the things that were different about those teams. You obviously champion in 2017 with Toronto when you guys won the domestic treble there as well. What about that team, the Toronto team, did you take away as saying this is really important that happened during 2017, or this was a really important character trait of this team?
I mean, there's so many things, and I touched on it a little bit today. I mean, just the combination of the talent. I mean, Victor, obviously, who's fortunately with us still today here with the Galaxy, but wasn't even a DP. Again, not even a DP here. So to be able to have someone at that level on that salary, and then to get your DPs right. I mean, we had Sebastian Jovinko, who was fantastic that year. Josie Altidore, who was scoring goals, scored probably definitely the most important goal of the season in the final. And Michael Bradley, who was our leader. And then here, you see some of those similarities. Chicharito's hungry. He's got a goal already in the first game. He just wants to be healthy. He wants to win. He's been a winner at other clubs he's been at. You see Kevin Cabral, a young player who's, athletic and has shown the fuel and the hungry. And so that mix of talent and that mix of energy and fire and will to win is so important. And a lot of times in this league, you don't always get that mix, especially with your DPs. Sometimes you get your DPs coming to this league who want to make an extra check and get what they want to do, and they don't necessarily care about winning in MLS. And you could tell that this group, that those players, that all the players around them have that hunger and desire to win. And it's so important in this league because whatever they understand or believed about the league before, they quickly realize that this is not an easy league to win in, and it's going to take that for 34 games in the regular season to put you into the playoffs, and then the playoffs are a whole totally different beast.
Eriq, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you here. I know you've been a part of Major League Soccer for a long time, going back to the old Chivas days. But where do you see this team in your strengths, and where do you see yourself fitting into this system? Because I know you're a guy who's, you know Greg. You're actually related to Greg. So it seems like it would be more of a seamless transition for you than anybody. But how do you see things overall as you take an assessment of this Galaxy, and where do you see your role with this team coming up this season?
Yeah, I'm just trying to provide as much as possible. Look, I believe I still have a ton of good soccer left in me. I feel as good as I've ever felt before. I'm still only 29 years old. And so I just want to contribute in any way possible. And however Greg sees that. Greg knows me as a player better than anybody. And he knows that I can contribute to this group. And he's going to put me in the best position to do that. But at the same time, we've gotten 2 shutouts in 2 games. That's great progress coming on last year. I've talked to a lot of guys about how many shutouts we had last year. And they all say, look, two in 2 games is fantastic. And so I want to help this defensive group improve on what they had last year, whether that be in the training field or on the pitch on Saturdays or Sundays or whatever it might be. So we don't have a defined role. I don't think you ever define a role specifically. I talked today about trying to help the younger players, help Julian, help Jalen. Some of these guys learn what the league is about, give him some of the tips that I've learned, and prepare him as best as possible for the weekend. And so I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help the club inside and outside, in the locker room, on the field, whatever it may be. And then every chance I get, I'm going to take it and use it as if it's my last, because I'm fortunate to have a different perspective here in my 10th year in MLS of how special it is to be on a team like this, to be at a club like this, and to contribute at a club who's trying to win championships. And so whatever that might be, whatever position Greg puts me in, I'll be ready for, and whatever that is, I'll be excited for it.
Eriq, this is the part of the show where I take my my limited sporting ability and project it onto professional soccer players. It's always entertaining for everybody. But I know, and I wanted to ask you this question. Obviously, you're Greg's nephew, and I remember back in the day playing on my baseball teams with my dad as a coach. And I remember that everybody was like, "Oh, well, why Josh always gets to play because his dad is the coach." It's all this favoritism and stuff like that. Do you hear any of that? Does any of that bother you at all?
No, none of that means anything to me. It bothered me when I was first a young player coming into the league, but now I look back and say, you guys are lucky to have both of us. Look at the track history that Greg and I have had. We've won 3 Canadian championships. We've won a championship, a Supporters Shield. We constantly are putting teams into the playoffs. I think we missed the playoffs together one time, and here we are together again. And so results speak for themselves. Greg and I promise you, are putting in more work, or just as much work as anybody at the club. Greg probably more than anybody else. I can't even speak for him. And so, listen, you're going to get the best of me. You're going to get the best of him. And he keeps bringing me here for a reason. He believes in me. And to say I believe in him is an understatement. He's the best coach in the league, and he continues to prove it year after year, day after day. And so none of that means anything to me. Everybody who's within the locker room, who works with me on a day-to-day basis, understands that I bring a lot to the club, and I don't have to explain any of that anymore, fortunately. And so it doesn't mean anything to me. It won't ever mean anything to me anymore, and we'll just continue to prove it with results, because ultimately that's all that matters in this business.
Yeah, Eriq, though, but do you get to borrow Greg's car? Does he let you, or do you have the keys to his pool or something like that? I mean, there's got to be some perks, right?
You know what? He just bought a gorgeous, beautiful house in Redondo Beach that I get to visit whenever I want to visit. He's got a beautiful Tesla that I wish I could drive whenever, because gas prices around here are obnoxious. But I don't get much perks other than the fact that I get to come visit. I get to be around my family. He's got 4 beautiful kids. 3 of them are in the academy that you get to watch on a daily basis now, which is a ton of fun. And but man, the house he's gotten is beautiful, and I'm excited to be around it more.
That's good. No, my last question for you, and then I'll let Christian finish it up. I think you talked a little bit about Los Angeles and why you chose it and why you thought it was going to be a good fit for you. And you mentioned the weather. I would accept the weather as the only reason to come from maybe Toronto and come to. Or let's face it, we would also accept In-N-Out as a reason, or Pupusas
True.
as a reason. Any 3 of those we would accept on their face value, but why Los Angeles?
The club, honestly, the Galaxy is just a wonderful club with tons of tradition. I talked about on the call how I haven't won since 2014 when I was in the opposing locker room. I want to help them bring that back. I think this club deserves to be a title contender, a champion in this league as many times as possible. And so I've always wanted and admired from afar. We talked about it as a kid, but I'm telling you, players in every league, in every country know about MLS. Okay, but when you know about MLS, what do you know about? You know about the LA Galaxy. So this club is fantastic. I wanted to be here from the very beginning. And so just to be able to have that opportunity is really the main reason. And the sun is a perfect secondary reason as to come here and be able to wake up and look at that every day.
That's good.
Eriq, I'm sure that, also along with all these great weather attributes and everything and the sun and fun, but Greg, that's got to be one of the appealing aspects of it. And you're a guy that knows him personally, him firsthand professionally. What is it about Greg that makes you want to play for him as a coach, and what makes him such a good coach? What makes him tick?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I touched on before, he's a tireless worker. He's the first one in the building and then the last one out the door. And when he goes out the door, I could tell you firsthand because I've seen it. He goes home and he does more preparation and more work. As this league continues to evolve, he continues to evolve, and so that's fantastic. I think he puts his players in the best position on the weekend to succeed, and I think that's a rare trait in MLS. I think to know the league the way he does, but to be progressive and to understand the modern game the way he does, but also have a very distinct and clear style of play is really good for his players. And so for young players like a Jalen, like a Julian, like many others we have, and then for older players like me and whoever else, Victor, Chicharito, just to be able to have that clarity is so important. And so yes, he plays an attractive style of football, a type that I love and the type that I would play as well when I become a coach, but also one that is easy to understand for some of these players and is clear on a daily basis about what his messaging is. To make them understand it is so important, and I think is a big reason why he's successful, and a big reason why every player that plays for him wants to play for him again and wants to continue to play for him as much as possible. He's a very good manager, has learned a ton. I've seen him from the day he stepped into the job to now. He's just a completely different manager, and he puts great people around him. And so all of those reasons are why he succeeds and why he will continue to succeed. I have no doubt about it as he continues on with his coaching career.
All right, Eriq. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. We should get you a microphone and you could just hang out with us for the rest of it. But this was last minute. We appreciate you stopping by, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to you again real soon. Good luck on the weekend. All right.
Anytime you guys want to have me, I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. There you go. And there goes Eriq Zavaleta, the LA Galaxy's newest signing. I was serious, Christian. I'd give him your microphone. I think he does a better job than me, quite honestly, and we could probably let him talk.
I think he needs his own podcast.
We can make that happen, Eriq. Just call me. We'll
I smell a spinoff.
Right?
Smell a spinoff.
We
didn't get to ask him about pupusas, though. He's a Salvadorian international, right?
He is. And
we missed that one.
And he talked about not using a fork today and why you don't use a fork when you eat pupusas. And so, I mean, all these are important things, and so we'll have to have him back on. Again, I'll have to tell him why I always order 3 pupusas, knowing darn well that I can only eat 2. But just in case, I want to make sure that I'm never the right thing.
You always need a spare pupusa.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Always. I mean,
yeah,
we might have to have a pupusa off, you and I, soon.
Yeah, that's right. The chat room, by the way, I think Zavaleta's wearing number 15, if I remember correctly. I think that's what it was put in, but it may be a different number. Somebody was saying that and taking a look at it. So 15 for Eriq Zavaleta. Super interesting, though. I mean, okay, so listen, I have been critical of this before they even signed him. He's been signed. And I've been sitting there saying, okay, so you got another defender. Congratulations. By the way, let's give you details. 29 years old, as he said on the call, 1 year plus 1 year club option. So 1 year contract, and then the club, the LA Galaxy, will choose whether or not they want to exercise that option for next year. That does make 6 center backs on the roster, though, Christian. Derek Williams, Sega Coulibaly, Jalen Neal, Marcus Furcanis, Nick DePuy, and Zavaleta now. So there's 6 guys back there that can fill into those spots. Now, if we are doing that and we're looking at where guys are playing, I guess there's a good argument right now that Sega Coulibaly and Nick DePuy as the starters, and I expect Williams will eventually make his way back in to a starting position there as well. That if you have 2 injuries to that, you were suddenly without a center back, an experienced center back. So you would have to throw in somebody young like Jalen Neal and Marcus Furcanis. And if you did that, you would be, and I think this is Greg's thinking, is you would be throwing those guys sort of into the wolves and not necessarily developing them the way that they want to do. So do we look at as 4 center backs and 2 development projects, and that makes sense? Because 6 seems like a lot of center backs to be carrying on a roster.
It is, but you have to be realistic about this. The point where Jalen and Marcus Furcanis are immensely talented and have a future. That future right now, in terms of immediate contribution, is not going to be now in terms of a 90-minute game in and game out basis. So when you need a proven MLS defender that can provide the depth that you're going to need, that's what you need right now, especially when you consider the fact that, Derek Williams has had fitness problems.
Right.
And he has had a disciplinary problem as well. He's going to miss games with that in the case. And Sega has also had his injury issues as well last year. Correct. A depth piece is a smart decision. This is a team that's in need of, a spine, strengthening of that spine. Right. They got it with Delgado. They're getting it a little bit more now with Zavaleta in front of the back four as a depth piece. I don't think he's going to be first choice personally, but called in to do a job, he can do that. He's a guy that's a utility man in his years throughout MLS and his time with Toronto and Chivas and other teams, but a guy that can play anywhere across that back four. Will provide. He's not going to make a big mistake. He's going to give you good, solid minutes. He's going to give you a solid work rate and fill in where need be and fill in the gaps. And also, you talked about Marcus and Jalen. When you have guys that young, you need experienced guys around them like him that can show them the way and show them what it's like in this league. And yes, you're going to get that with a Derek Williams, but Derek Williams is not an MLS guy. But now you've got a guy in Sega Coulibaly is not that guy. Now you've got a guy with Eriq Zavaleta. He knows the league. He knows its mechanisms and the way it works, the travel and henceforth. To sound like a sports cliche and intangibles, but to have a guy like that, much like a Sasha Kljestan and their effect off the pitch, I think it's worth its weight in gold. And I think it's a smart, sound signing. And on the economic side, it makes total sense.
Yeah, it seems like a low risk sort of signing here in this. If we go by last year's numbers, Eriq Zavaleta on the base salary was an $81,000 signing. So you're talking about almost league minimum signing, and then guaranteed salary wise $115,000. In today's MLS, that's not a huge salary cap hold in order to sort of take. I think he takes up a supplemental roster spot as well, if you're really getting into that as well. So technically might not even be part of the salary cap top 20 senior roster. So there's other things in there that you can sort of look at what Zavaleta is bringing. And so overall, I question it. And I'll be honest, after you talk to him, it's harder to question it. Right? And I get that a lot of the ways. And I think that it's one of the most important things that we can do is hear from these guys and hear their ideas, because if you're just making a decision based on the fact that you have 5 center backs and that you don't need a 6th, which is a lot of times how we do it, if you don't talk to him to hear the intelligence and and the role he thinks he's going to play. He said it during the call. He said it during his call to us as well. I'm here to help the young guys. I'm here to be part of that locker room. He talked about the locker room. That's an important thing that we often dismiss whenever we're looking at these.
100%. And, he's one of 2 MLS Cup winners, I believe, that is on this team right now, correct? Or I could be wrong in that. I mean, you would know better than me. I mean, Victor on that team in 2017. Mm-hmm. That is worth its weight in gold as well. And that's part of what you're talking about, helping these young guys. There's a way to win. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win. And you need guys like that can believe that they can do that. So, you look around at a team that's, become the gold standard, the LA Galaxy, in terms of championships. You need guys on your team that have been there and done that. They're proven themselves in that department. That's what Eriq Zavaleta brings. He's not a sexy signing. Right. He's not a headline grabber, but he's a winner. And the more of those you have, I think makes your team better in terms of character on and off the pitch.
Villafaña, I think, also won with Portland, right? Yeah,
You're
I think
right.
so. Yeah. So, yeah, I went over the roster quickly and was like, who else has won one? I thought there was one more, but yeah, Villafaña as well. By the way, we have to stop and acknowledge a super chat. Kyle in the chat room, a $50 super chat. Apparently, he's giving Herb a run for his money. So, if Kyle keeps this up, we're going to have to rename the Herb Memorial chat room into the Kyle.
Scratch off the plaque.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not trying to.
Herb.
Listen. If I am being honest, I can have more than one sugar daddy. So I really as many as
Guesman.
I know. It's easy. It's easy for me. But anyway, no. This is a lot of interesting stuff with Savaletta. I mean, again, we joke around. He's 29. But when you look at the fact that he came into the league in 2013, when you look at it, he was playing 17 games with Chivas USA in 2014. I mean, let's see, 140 games played, almost 10,000 minutes. There's some experience there. And when you look at when Toronto was at its best, Eriq Zavaleta was at his best as well. That was whenever he had almost 2,400 minutes. He played in 29 games, got 27 games started. So there's something there. I asked Greg today about positional flexibility or just in terms of formational flexibility, and he agreed. He says that Eriq has played in a 3-man back line before. So again, we think of 4 starting center backs as 2 and 2, but that can quickly be 3 in the back, and you could run a 3-man, maybe a 5-man back line that has a 3-man central core to it, and you need 3 center backs for that. We know Leardam can come in and play that right center back spot as well. So there's all these things that Greg can do, and we know that Greg likes to have those options, that flexibility to be able to do things when he has to do things.
Absolutely. I mean, it not only gives you depth, it gives you versatility, to your point, and it's a utility man. He can plug all the holes. So I think it's a no-lose situation. It's a win-win for Zavaleta. It's a win-win for the Galaxy. It doesn't cost them much, and I'm sure he's going to see some valuable minutes, because we start talking about these games that come, after that 2-week international break or that lull in late June, and then the games come thick and fast. About 3 or 4. About every 10, 12 days in early July. Zavaleta is going to see some minutes. And you talk about playing away from home on turf, and the injuries and suspensions, which are going to creep into the situation. You need that rotation. And it also it gives not only some mentorship for guys like Jalen Neal and guys like Marcus Ferkranus, but it also lets them develop, because let's be honest, these guys are going to need more time at LA Galaxy too. And that's what this is set up for. And the USL is a great breeder of that. It's a great place to nurture the talent. I think those guys need more time there to develop and breathe and learn the game. And so, and it allows them to come along more slowly into that system. And I can't stress enough how important that synergy is from that team, even down to the youth levels, all the way up to the senior team. Now you have a component in that will facilitate that a little bit better, and allow these guys to develop in the best way possible without just throwing them into the fire. I don't think you can just do that.
Yeah, sometimes that works. Sometimes that fails miserably, right?
But you can also wreck a player.
Yeah, you can.
You don't, and these guys need to be along. And in that position, where center back is such a cerebral position, where a lot of guys can make up with athleticism, like a Julian Araujo or whatever. In other positions, you need to have a great head on your shoulders. You need to read the game. You need to understand the game. It's all in front of you. And that comes with not only games, but it also comes with familiarity. And that's something that needs to be developed. So very rarely do you see young center backs breaking in that were 21, 22, game in and a game out basis. This is a learned kind of position that requires, a wise head. So that allows them to develop that. And I think it's a good move. And I applaud the signing.
Yeah, center backs also have longer lifespans in a lot of leagues as well. So they tend to peak a little later, and they tend to stay around a little longer as well. So all in all, I think it's going to be. I'm more on the. It's a good signing. I understand it a little more. Talking to Greg, talking to Eriq, I can understand why they made this move and why they wanted to do it. Results, of course, you'll have to see. When the actual salaries come out, we can always, and by the way, that goes for everybody. When the salaries come out, that's whenever it's time to say, okay, let's evaluate these guys based on what they're getting. Like, I'm about to show you the roster here on a whole bunch of things, and these are numbers from last year, and I can tell you the LA Galaxy have spent a lot of money this year if they're just using last year's numbers, and usually those numbers inflate towards the next year, so we'll see where that is. Before we get too far, Patrick sends in a $10 super chat and says, Kyle's my new spirit animal, Herb. So Herb is losing his followers quickly. By the way, you guys,
where you at, Herb?
Herb has dropped more money in this, I think, than I have over my 14 years of doing stuff. So Herb is fine. And it's not a competition. I love you all. Okay, I love you all. So everybody's good. Let's get to the LA Galaxy roster a little bit though. Christian, with the Eriq Zavaleta signing, LA Galaxy now at 28 players out of 30 total spots available. Now, some interesting things. I told everybody that I sort of tweeted out, the Galaxy 28 of 30 spots filled, 8 of 8 internationals. We are still assuming right now that Carlos Harvey picked up a green card or doesn't need an international spot for whatever reason, and that makes sense because otherwise the Galaxy couldn't be roster compliant. We imagine they are roster compliant, being that they have been playing games after the roster compliance. So we have to assume some of that stuff. So that stuff, that's all fine. The LA Galaxy average age right now on the roster, and by the way, this changes every day because everybody gets older every day, which is always fun to watch whenever I see these spreadsheets, but it's 25.36 right now. 25.3 is the average age for the LA Galaxy. Median age is 25. If I'm using numbers from last year and some guesses, I have to guess at what. Yeah, it is a young roster. if I have to guess at some of these things, Christian, we had heard that Douglas Costa is making $5 million a year. We don't know what the actual number is, but I plugged $5 million into this. That way we could take a look at it. Like one of the other ones was Richard Sanchez, the goalkeeper, the backup. I can't imagine he's making a whole bunch of money. So we put in the 81,375, which is usually that lower senior number for the rosters. And so we can estimate that. So if we estimate all that right now, I have the Galaxy's guaranteed salary at almost $21 million for the entire roster. That's not a small amount of money. So understand the Galaxy spending some money. Now, 6 of that is Chicharito and 5 of that is Douglas Costa. So half the roster taken up by 2 guys, but that's MLS, and that's certainly something that we have been dealing with for quite a long time.
26 guys and 10 splitting $10 million.
Yeah, it's hey, that's.
I wish I had that problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's like if you won a lottery ticket, you had to split it with everybody at work. So it is definitely definitely interesting when you look at the roster and sort of where that roster sits. Now, Greg Vanney today during the conference call, Christian said he had room for 2 more players. Right. And he said 2 more players on the senior roster. The senior roster is 1 through 20. So he has 2 more roster spots on the senior roster, which is basically he means he has 18 senior players right now and 2 spots open. The 2 spots that are open can be on the senior roster. And he says that they have funds for that. And he said in the past that he has TAM funds available for that and probably a max TAM player plus a little bit more. But just from what he said today, Christian, it feels like he's waiting for summer. So the Galaxy are going to roll the dice with what he has right now.
I want to go shopping with Greg Vanney. He's
got a Tesla. Didn't you hear? He has a really nice Tesla.
I know, and a house in Redondo Beach. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. He's got to get him to foot the bill. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they fill in the gaps, right? I mean, we were talking before. I don't want to steal your thunder, but moves in the summertime. That TAM thing is huge.
Yeah,
and that requires it. I still think this team needs. They're still missing some pieces. I still think, like we were talking about, Zavaleta is an addition and strengthens the spine. There still needs be a little bit more there, I think, in terms of depth in the central midfield, a little more protection provided.
Yes.
Because, Delgado and Raveloson are not going to be able to go week in and week out, just like anybody else throughout the season, especially when we're talking about in the games we were just mentioning, or in July, and as the fixtures become congested and the schedule gets crazy. So that's going to be really fascinating here, and who they have their eye on. Is that going to be somebody international that they can bring in at a real high clip at 1.6, 1.7? Because that's when you're talking a serious player.
Yep.
That's what I'm intrigued about, and that could be the other 1/3 or 1/2 of the sexy signing in the offseason coming a little bit late and delayed after bringing in Douglas Costa. So I think it's exciting, and I think we'll see some moves coming up this summer maybe.
Yeah, the TAM play. I think you nailed it. It's that center of the midfield, and what are you going to do to back that up? And there's a lot of arguments that perhaps this team still needs a 10. I like Douglas Costa pulling some strings over on the right-hand side. I like how he switches sides with Kevin Cabral. By the way, I'm going to play you some audio where Greg Vanney is pumping up Kevin Cabral and what he has been doing. And his biggest highlight so far, he says, is that he has been putting in defensive work that he did not put in last year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge underrated part. And I agree with Greg on that assessment.
It goes into collective shape, Josh. I mean, that's, sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, go ahead.
That to me is the most defining characteristic throughout these 2 games. A collective defensive shape. They're harder to play against. They're difficult to get at. We've been on this podcast and talked about it so many times, throughout the years. The Galaxy, when you play against them on the counterattack and they're on defense, it's like the team's running downhill against you. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like there's more of a spine, there's more cohesion and more structure. So it's a good thing.
Fingers crossed that I asked Greg a little bit today, and again, I'll play you some audio here in just a second, just about, is the offense getting frustrated? The defense has been playing pretty good in the first 2 games. They got some lucky. I'd say the first game they didn't deserve this shutout. The second game more so. They still tried to give it away once, and so I'm like, okay, it's still there. Let's not overreact. And I think that's funny because I think Jonathan Bond was talking today about not overreacting after 2 games. Like, it's 2 games. Everybody calm down. It's like, yeah, but you haven't given up a goal. It's 2 games. Chill.
6% of the season's over.
Right. Yeah. It feels like we're we're blazing through it. So a lot of good things there. So keep an eye on the roster. It's one of those things we're going to watch and sort of see how they fill in. The transfer window stays open, I think, until May. So there's still time if they wanted to actually bring somebody in. But I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. And then it opens back up in July. So there's only a short period of time where it's closed for a little while, and then it'll open back up in the summer. So I still think summertime is when you're going to see that. Let's move on a little bit here as we get closer to looking at the Seattle game. But Julian Araujo received an award. He received the LA Community Athlete of the Year award. It was actually presented to him, I think, via video by Mayor Eriq Garcetti there. And this was, as Garcetti said, for his humanitarian work that he's been doing in Lompoc, and handing stuff out to the farm workers there, and really taking a special watch over his community where he's from, and being so connected to that. We've seen this from Julian ever since he really got into the club. His ability and his want to get into the community and fix things here, and try to use his position to better other people's lives. Yes.
Look, not to play the role of panderer here, but so many times players come in and they jump onto a cause.
Yes.
This kid is 20 years old. He started the cause. And that to me is exemplary. And it speaks more about his character than anything you and I could ever say about him. So for me, Justice Earth, great kid, great person. And I mean, what were you doing at 20 years old? I mean, I wasn't starting up, altruistic charity projects for agricultural workers. I mean, that's flat out amazing and a great player. What a human being. That's fantastic.
It's funny you said what you were doing when you were 20 years old. No, it's just funny because I always, we get to talk to these professional athletes. We get to see people who are so accomplished in their fields, reaching the pinnacle of their fields.
Like us.
Yeah, of course. That's so it always, one of my friends goes, oh, hey, I was born on like the same day as I forget who it was. Like, it was like, oh, I was born on the same day as LeBron James. I'm like, see, stuff like that makes me very depressed, right? It's like, here's
absolutely.
LeBron. I mean, I wasn't born as like a 6'7", basketball player. And so, that wasn't a thing. So that probably wasn't going to happen for me. But at the same time, it's like, you talk to these guys who've done stuff. I mean, Sasha Kleshtin, if you sat Sasha Kleshtin and I in the same room together, side by side, and you tried to figure out which one was the more mature, which one was the elder statesman, the wise man, you would point at Sasha Kleshtin, who is younger than me. I would point at Sasha Kleshtin, right? Well,
that's true. I mean, if Cosmo was sitting next to you, we also point at Cosmo.
Yes, this is true, absolutely, 100%. But it's one of those things. So I do like the fact that we're talking about Julian Araujo receiving the LA Community Athlete of the Year award, and the previous show we were asking if he's the new bad guy in MLS. Like, is he playing the heel? Is he a man of the dark arts now? He has hit 3 people in the face in 2 games. So he is walking that line. But off the field, Greg, I've said this about Nigel de Jong too, who I had the very distinct pleasure of interviewing face to face. I would have let Nigel de Jong watch my kids. Like, go play with Uncle Nigel. He's fine, the whole deal. Just don't play soccer. Do not play soccer. The only thing you can do, anything else you want to do, just don't play soccer. Because when Nigel gets on a soccer field, a little switch turns and he becomes the machine, and he wants to wreck everybody, right? And so that type of thing. Julian Araujo can be the same, can be the nicest guy off the field, can be this super guy, and whenever he gets on the field, he gets an edge, he gets a chip on his shoulder. He has this ability. Zlatan used to make up fake fights on the field, so that way he was, this guy disrespected me. He didn't do anything to you, but he disrespected me, and now I'm going to show him. The whole deal. So there's something to that. Just all fun.
Every team needs that edge. I love it.
Yeah.
As a broadcaster, as a fan of the game, I love the edge that those players bring. I mean, you can go back in time to like the Roy Keanes of the world. Zlatan has it. It's a thirst, and it boils down. And Wayne Rooney used to have the same problem when he was starting. Mm-hmm. It boils down to a thirst, a competitive edge to the game. And look, Julian does not have a disciplinary problem. No, he does not have it. Is he fiercely competitive? Does he get hot-headed? Yes, he does at times.
Yeah.
In his position, he's asked to do a heck of a lot more as a defender than you were asked to do it as a defender probably 5 or 6 years ago. It carries so much responsibility being a fullback in the modern day game. If you take that away from Julian Araujo, he is not Julian Araujo, and he is not the player that he is. He's made foolish decisions. Every defender has.
Right.
I personally don't even blink an eye about it, and I want that more than anything. I think it's an attribute, and it's essential for him and his makeup, and it's what makes him such a great defender, a great player.
Marvin, by the way, posits an alternate theory about Julian Araujo, says maybe these guys who he hit in the face, maybe they had a bee on their face and Julian just saved them. So that was probably what it is. He was probably being the humanitarian that we know he is, and he was trying to save these. So they're welcome. I'm sure Julian says they're welcome.
You've got a mosquito.
Yeah, exactly. Not a problem. All right. Let's get to the LA Galaxy schedule here real quick. Just the weekly schedule.
This is scary.
What's scary?
The schedule.
This is just the weekly schedule. I haven't even gotten to the the real schedule. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Oh, okay.
But the LA Galaxy did train today. There was a media call today. If you want to go on our YouTube page or on cornerofthegalaxy.com, you can find that full media call today. Greg Vanney, Jonathan Bond, and Eriq Zavaleta spoke. Some good little things in there as well. I asked Jonathan Bond whether or not his mom was going to be rooting against him whenever he played Seattle, because his mom was from Seattle and was a Seattle Sounders fan from back in the day, the whole deal. So you can find out whether or not she's rooting against him. I think you could probably guess the answer to that question, but it still was a little fun moment there. So Thursday, the Galaxy will train early on Friday. So tomorrow they will train. They'll have an AM walkthrough type thing. Then they will get on a plane that afternoon, and they'll head up to Seattle. The game is Saturday, 12:30 p.m. is not the kickoff time, but they're going to pretend it is. It's 12:55 is the kickoff time. We'll get a little bit more into
ESPN?
that. Fox and Fox Deportes. So
Gotcha.
that's where you can find that. The other thing that's happening this weekend, before we get too far away from the LA Galaxy and all that, is that LA Galaxy 2 will open their season this weekend. And so for LA Galaxy 2, they will open and play at San Diego Loyal. So Landon Donovan's team down there is LA Galaxy 2 will head down. That game can be found on ESPN Plus. It's a 7 p.m. Pacific time kickoff on Saturday, March 12th. So you can watch the LA Galaxy game and then head on down to San Diego, and I think you can make that all work. I think all the timing still works for you if you wanted to go down there and watch LA Galaxy 2 play. I say that, Christian, because as of right now, at least as I've been informed, the LA Galaxy 2 are not going to have fans at their games. There is one exception so far, which is that the doubleheader that will be played against Orlando, LA Galaxy will play Orlando, then LA Galaxy 2 will be playing against San Antonio FC. That is the one exception so far that we have. But as of right now, the LA Galaxy 2 game is not open to the public, so you will not be able to watch those, which I think, personal opinion, is a horrible, horrible mistake that they're making. But I'm sure they're doing it because they lost a lot of money during the pandemic and they don't want to spend any more money. That's my view, my personal opinion. I don't want to put that on Christian.
Absolutely. Look, football's a fan game. Soccer's a fans game. And when fans aren't there, it has a massive effect. We saw it, first and foremost, a prime example of that throughout the world during this crazy pandemic that we've all lived through. It's disappointing. Understand why the club is doing it. Don't want to poo-poo too much on it. But, anytime there's not fans of the game, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, and you want the guys like Jalen Neals. The Jalen Neals are going to be playing down there. I think Eriq Zavaleta actually played an LA Galaxy 2 game last weekend as well. Like, you want those guys to feel that there is support, that they're part of the team. And so, I feel like this leaves that broken.
I'm a part of this Galaxy 2 setup, and I have been for a while. I love Galaxy 2. It's phenomenal to watch the maturation of young players and see the stars of, some of the stars that can, move on to the next level. It's fantastic. So, with that, you want to see that backed up with a lot of fan support. And, prior to all this craziness that we've all been living through the last couple of years, we see some raucous supporters, down at DHSP Track and Field Stadium. A lot of fun. I guess ESPN Plus will be loving it because everyone will be tuning in, right, on the stream?
Yep, that's right. ESPN Plus is where you can find it. So that's an easy one. All their games, all LA Galaxy 2 games, ESPN Plus. So easy to find whenever you want to do that. I encourage everybody to stick around for that Orlando game and afterwards and watch LA Galaxy 2 play San Antonio, because that's good. There is a good possibility we're going to have LA Galaxy 2 head coach Yohan Dame on our program next week. I'm trying to figure out a time when that happens. Probably be a pre-tape situation for either a Monday night show or a Thursday show. But we're going to have him on to talk about the LA Galaxy 2 a little bit. And Christian is our LA Galaxy 2 expert as well. So we're going to make sure that you come on occasion as well. So we'll make sure we get that. One other housekeeping note before we then slide into the LA Galaxy schedule and looking at Seattle and all those fun things. There was a time change for the September 4th game versus Sporting Kansas City. Game was originally scheduled for 7 p.m. and was supposed to be a quote unquote local broadcast. We don't. Everybody asks, when are we going to find out when the local broadcast is? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I ask. It's still, in my opinion, and people I talk to, and I am paying attention to this, it still looks like Spectrum is going to carry it. I don't know if they're ever going to announce it or if it ever happens, but it wasn't done whenever I talked last week, and I'm hoping that changes, but that time is approaching. The LA Galaxy's first local game that I can find, I think it's April 16th. Yeah, it's a local game, and that's the first one that's not nationally televised. But they do pick up a nationally televised game for this time change. So it was going to be a 7 p.m. and a local broadcast on September 4th. Now it is a 5 p.m. Pacific time kickoff and will be nationally televised on Uno Mas and TUDN. The other thing, Christian, that I always think is funny, and people are pointing this out, you don't need a local TV partner if all of your games are nationally broadcast. So just keep pumping those up, right?
The league loves them some LA Galaxy, don't they?
It is. I
think there's 16 games locally this year, and the local broadcasting situation is kind of a conundrum. But I personally, look, I work within the club as far as just a radio broadcaster, but I just come in and do the game. So I really, I don't know what's going on.
You don't have any pull. I can't mind you for anything.
I don't know what's going on. I just show up and I, hold the microphone and then I go home.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on at home either. But from all indicators, it looks like it's going to be Spectrum for that gap year until the MLS sorts out its whole broadcasting situation for 2023. So I'm not too worried about it.
No, it's going to happen. Something will happen. You will be able to watch games.
Though, Josh, so we all can know and figure, just have a little planning ahead. It'd be nice.
Well, just in case, I'll let everybody know that if, in fact, it does go to Spectrum, which we're expecting, then I've already arranged it that Nikki is going to come on our show again, like she did last time, and do a little co-host spot on there for us as well. So we'll have Nikki back on if that happens. And Nikki and I have been talking. We talk probably once a week, just trying to figure out whether or not there's anything going on. So I keep my fingers crossed.
She's got nothing for you.
Hey, we have lots of information that we share back and forth about the TV deals. So it's just not all public information.
Yeah.
So we're working on it. It takes a team. That's what I think. It's never one person who breaks a story. It's multiple people whenever you figure out as you start to put things together. So,
unless you're Larry Morgan.
Unless you're the man, Larry Morgan himself. I hope Larry's listening. If he is, he'll definitely text me once he heard his name mentioned again. I wanted to get a little bit to Greg Vanney and the press conference. First of all, injury updates. He talked about Victor Vasquez. He says Victor trained today. He said he imagines he's going to be good to go. Wanted to see his reaction to the training, but figures he didn't seem overly concerned with it. That could be him playing it up and saying, whether or not Victor. Again, this is game number 2, Christian, on the plastic turf. The one thing Greg Vanney did say, which was funny because he was asked about the turf, he said, after we get done with Portland, we know that we've basically played 3 of the 5 already on plastic turf, on turf. So we're almost there. We're feeling like counting. You're right. Exactly. The whole deal. So, I was asking Greg Vanney a couple different things. He talked about his role for Eriq Zavaleta. I would implore you to go and sort of listen to his responses and some of that things. I'm trying to see. Here's Greg Vanney talking real quickly about the roster and the roster spots. I want everybody to hear what he says so we don't have to take my word for it. So here's Greg Vanney.
Yeah, we're continuing to assess. We still have 2 open roster spots in our 20, so it's there. We still have resources and funds to be able to do that. Just continuing to see how the group continues to evolve. We have loads of attacking options, I feel like, so it's not necessarily in those spaces that we're looking. We're kind of assessing Jorge Villafaña's situation. He's got an issue that he's carried over from last year with his knee. He might have to have a more in-depth look at that, a little scope or something early next week to see where we're at with him. So hopefully he's okay, but that's going to take us a little time. So we're kind of monitoring that situation. I think also, I talked about it in midfield. There's a possibility along the way to maybe add one more midfielder. We'll see how it shapes up. But the team's doing okay right now, and guys are stepping in and doing their jobs, and that gives us some flexibility to be patient and make sure that as our season progresses, that there's not anything that pops up that is urgent, let's say.
All right. Yeah, I know. That was.
I don't like that Villafaña news.
It's not. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I mean, it feels like they've been trying to move past him a little bit anyway, but at the same time, that's a twist. It has known that there has been a bone bruise on that knee since last season. We've been waiting to hear what happened, but it sounds like it's not fixing itself.
With these situations, you read between the lines, and what's not being said speaks louder than what is being said right now. It's a serious problem, obviously, and it's something. It kept him out for the last 6 or 7 games, I believe, of the last season. So it's not just some niggly hamstring problem right now. There's something that's going on. Otherwise, because we all know it, Jorge Villafaña is a player that should be on the pitch if he's fit. I mean, he's first choice. Raheem Edwards has actually done a pretty good job of deputizing so far this season, so he's making a case for himself. But there's no doubt about the capabilities and the proven commodity that Jorge Villafaña provides. And if that's the case, right?
Right.
So now we're talking about a lack of depth at the left fullback position right now because you've got a Raheem Edwards right now. Zavaleta could fill in there in a pinch, I think. Not exactly something you want to go about and do week in and week out, but that brings up an issue here, and that affects what we're talking about and what Greg's talking about, how they go about, on their shopping list this summer. I mean, you want to strengthen in midfield, like you said, but then you've got pressing issues with the fullback. How do you address that? And that kind of throws a wrench in your plans, I think. So that's one. It's like, watch this space. What's going to happen here? That's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. I hope it's not a long-term situation where Villafaña has to, go under the knife or something. So
I mean, it feels like it's headed that direction, though. If you haven't seen it, fix itself by now, and obviously if they're going to go in and scope it, which is itself, an invasive surgery, just a minor one.
And this is a guy that's been durable. I mean, Villafaña has been so durable, throughout his years, going back to 2006, 2007.
Yeah, I think that, the Raheem Edwards thing has been a little bit of a revelation. Let's try that word. Revelation. And
that's relevation.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. It's fine. Larry, by the way, did text me. I just want to say. He says it looks like Christian is back in his hospital room with a curtain divider. So he always has to take issue with everybody's backdrops. He leaves mine alone.
I put a plant in here and I took the padding off the walls.
It looks great. I don't know what everybody's. If you're listening on the podcast, if you're listening and you're not watching, you should at least check it out just so that way you can see Christian's wonderful setup and not look like a hospital room.
What do I have to do, Larry?
for Larry, there's nothing. Let's get to this LA Galaxy versus Seattle Sounders game because I want to spend a little time on it. And Greg mentioned some things that I want to throw in here as well. So the LA Galaxy playing against the Seattle Sounders coming up on Saturday, March 12th. That's this Saturday, 12:30 p.m. TV time, a 12:55 p.m. kickoff time. I'm going to tell everybody once again, go to the MLS website. If you click on the game that you want to watch, you can go to the schedule and then you can click on that game. It's going to give you this header up top, and the header is going to tell you what time the TV starts. It says 12:30 p.m. And then underneath it, there's this little tiny number. It says KO, which means kickoff, and it tells you it's 12:55 p.m. So for everybody complaining that MLS doesn't tell you when games start, they do tell you when they start. Now, could they say that the game starts at 12:55 on the schedule? Yes, they could. But MLS is trying to do everything to keep their sorry TV numbers up as high as possible. So I've been watching. They've been showing some of those dips that I like. Have you seen some of the graphs that show MLS? Like it was on ESPN, and it's like Sports Center, and it's like 250,000. It's by hour, and it goes, and then all of a sudden it goes to MLS, and it goes and cuts in half to like 150,000.
Like the Omicron drop off.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the NBA comes back and it jumps up to like 4 or 5 million. Like real quick. So there are issues with this TV deal. I'm not saying they're insurmountable. I'm not saying it's going to be a major problem, but MLS wants you to tune in early so that way the number starts. That way you absorb all of their sponsored content that is out there and the sponsors get their names on that. So that's why they're telling you 12:30 p.m. Okay, so 12:55 p.m. is when kickoff is. Game is on Fox and Fox Deportes. Seattle 0-2-0 in the in league play, but they did in fact just play in the CONCACAF Champions League. And somewhere in here, I actually have all of the.
They destroyed Leon.
They did 3-0, and it looked like it was a pretty good game as well. In terms of what Seattle was able to do. Now, this is a Seattle team that has injuries, Christian, with Rui Diaz is injured. Will Bruin is injured. They think that Nico Ladero is going to be ready, although he did pick up some sort of knock in this game at one point. So there was question marks about that. Jordan Morris scored. Freddie Montero had a brace. One of those was a PK and a first half brace. So Greg Vanney said that this team has looked better than any other. This team has looked the best that they have looked all year is in this CONCACAF Champions League game. So really interesting. I have all the injuries, by the way. Rui Diaz, Bruin, and Alex Roldan actually is injured. Doesn't look like he'll be available either. But it was Christian Roldan who played, I guess, a very good game in this match. And then you had Jordan Morris who played well in this match. And they did get to rotate some guys out. There were some guys who went 90 minutes, and you would call it their first team did play the majority of that match, quote unquote. But Brian Schmetzer's been rotating some things, so we'll see if they rotate on Saturday as well.
They no doubt will have to rotate, especially when you throw those injuries. This is a terrible time to play Seattle. It really is. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything. One, they've lost their first two, so they've already got a bone to pick with the rest of the league, who's already poo-pooing all on them. And two, they just come off a fantastic performance, and their confidence is soaring against CONCACAF Champions League opponents. And Leon's no slouch, because we're not talking too long ago where they were amidst the Mexican elite right now in Liga MX. So. Not a good time to take them on, especially on their home pitch, especially on that plastic pitch. And for me, and I know Greg has echoed this opinion as well, and you have too. So for me, Seattle's the cream of the crop, and they do things week in and week out. Brian Schmetzer is a flat-out genius, and figures it out, gets the most out of his team. I'm not too worried. You can't read too much into the missing absence of Nico Lodero, because obviously Morris has come back, and they spent so much time without Lodero last year. For me, the engine that makes that team go is João Paulo, who is, I would consider him the best in the business. I think he's a completely underrated talent, and is kind of the straw that stirs that drink. So I don't like the idea of playing up in Seattle at this point. The timing is terrible. And you bet that Seattle are going to come out, and they are going to play with purpose. They're going to play with conviction and show that they belong amongst the elite, because the doubters are out there right now, and that, as an opposing team, is the last kind of team you want to play.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Albert Rusnak as well is now part of their team, so I mean, I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to work him into everything that's going on, and he's
could have been ours.
Yeah, for 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, Albert Rusnak was coming to the LA Galaxy. That was
Best
a fun
LA Galaxy Twitter player that never was.
Let's see. I think Ronaldinho was also
right.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be hard. It would be hard to say, but I mean, Rusnak this season certainly was. And they have a dangerous team. I don't like any of the parts of facing them, really. I think that's a tough ask for this LA Galaxy team. It's funny. You said, obviously we talked, Greg Vanney doesn't like turf. Most of the players don't like turf. Jonathan Bond today comes out and says, he goes, I actually like turf. He goes, but I'm also not running around like 7, 8, 9, 10K out there. He goes, I'm just standing back there. He goes, so it doesn't bother me. It's one of those.
Goalkeepers don't count.
Yeah. The LA Galaxy in 2010 started their season with 3 consecutive shutouts. Okay. So if the LA Galaxy were to shut out Seattle, they would tie that record, which is something, and it would be, I think, a real statement for the LA Galaxy to keep Seattle off the board. And I think Seattle, outside of this Leon game, has struggled with their offensive side things. Maybe they figured it out against Leon, but maybe they haven't in league play. Maybe things change enough that it could be sort of different. If you're wondering what the LA Galaxy will be wearing, Christian, I know you were. They'll be wearing their City of Dreams kit, the white kit, and it looks like it's Legend Inc. Is what they're calling it. So it is the purple haze shirts for the Seattle Sounders, purple and black, will be shown there. So in my opinion, a good color combination outside of last week's Charlotte, which had the potential to be really ugly, except that I forgot the tech green kit is technically more black than it is tech green, and so it worked out just fine. So anyway, there's some of that. Here's what Greg Vanney had to say about Seattle. Let's listen to Greg.
I thought they looked good the other night. I thought probably arguably the best they played in the season so far. I thought they looked very dangerous in their counterattack. They were organized defensively. And obviously they have quality players who can hurt you, and they've given chances. But for sure in the counterattack they look very dangerous. So for us, I think we got to continue with our formula, which is we got to continue to defend together as a group, and make sure we choose our moments when we can be higher on the field and opposing them in their half, and choose when we need to stay together as a group and make it difficult and just close off spaces. We got to be good in possession, and we've got to continue to to create opportunities. I thought we did a nice job in this last game of getting into good spots, creating opportunities. We probably needed to get a little bit more out of our opportunities than we did, but I thought there were some good aggressive moments for us. But again, it's a little bit of going into Seattle against a good team, having a good mentality, and being able to manage the environment and manage the situation for 90 minutes. I think we've also done a great job of doing that and giving ourselves a chance in every game to win the game. So that's a good mindset for us now. We'd like for more things to be in the back of the net, but that's a work in progress.
Ah, yes, the work in progress, the offense, the work in progress, which is, hey, I guess if you're an LA Galaxy fan, and I would have told you that after the second game of the season, the LA Galaxy are calling the offense the work in progress and not the defense, I guess you would take it, right? You would be like, wait a minute, what? No, the defense is horrible. What makes it better?
I know. I mean, it's flipped everything on its head, right? They flipped the script, right? Because, I mean, defensively, we've been a shambles for the last 5 years. Then we got back-to-back clean sheets, and now 2 goals in 2 games, so you're struggling. I'm not worried about the attack. Vanney's not worried about the attack, nor should he be. The chances are there. I think, just to echo the point that you made with Panda on Monday, if the chances aren't coming, then that's when you start to worry and you start hitting the panic buttons. But the chances are there. Now, of course, they're not taking them. But look, it is March right now.
Right.
They're not fully fit. This is early season form. Everybody has it. Seattle has it, and Seattle is the best in the league.
Right.
So it's going to happen. It's going to come together. Now, if the chances aren't there, then that's a different story, but the chances are there. Now, Seattle comes along. Chances are going to be very much at a premium. They're not going to come like they did against Charlotte last weekend. This is going to be a lot tougher. You cannot be as wasteful. You have to be more efficient, have to be more clinical in front of goal, and take those chances when they arise.
Yeah, I think Nashville did a great. I mean, so you looked at the first 2 games that Seattle has played in league. Nashville really did dominate them. They dominated the midfield. Mm-hmm. They dominated the chances on the scoreboard. It was a really good showing by a good Nashville team that is based on defense, but is starting to learn to make their chances count on the offensive side of things as well. They're going to be a nightmare this year in the Western Conference. Nashville is a real team.
Yeah. 100%, Josh.
Yeah.
They are. Gary Smith is a genius. He did this back in 2010 with Colorado Rapids. It wasn't sexy, but he won it, bunkered in, got the clean sheet, got the odd goal, won. And how many 1-0 games did that team win? And they rode it all the way to MLS Cup. He's brought that same ethos now, but now they're scoring goals. And
yeah.
I think people have overlooked this Nashville transition. It is huge. It's a massive shakeup. It's it's going to be the difference between a decent team making the playoffs and not.
Right.
And it changes the whole tectonics of this Western Conference. They are going to be an absolute tough nut to crack.
So they end up beating Seattle 1-0. And then Seattle goes to RSL, which was plagued by like a 2-hour and 15-minute weather delay that eventually brought out the orange ball. And the orange ball was out there because not snow, because of hail. There was so much hail on the ground that they wanted to make sure they could see the ball. So you got orange ball being played on hail, and that's just a goofy. I mean, if you look at the substitution patterns, I think Brian Schmetzer had to go in and sub like most of his guys in the 43rd minute because it stopped right before halftime, and then they were going to come back and play 7 minutes, and he didn't want to hurt people. And so anyway, and they were rotating guys. Again, don't take anything. And I asked Greg one of my question, which was, I was like, so the fact that Seattle hasn't won a game in the league, it means nothing, right? He goes, yeah, it means nothing. He goes, I'm not paying it. No, nice try, Seattle, trying to lull us into sleep there. That's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
Well,
So
it begs the question, Josh.
Yeah.
We all need a hail specialist.
I mean, I do know. Hey, I almost minored in meteorology in college. So I do know some meteorology things, all right? Hail is formed when constant updrafts loft little ice balls back up in the atmosphere over and over again, and each time they go up high, a different layer of ice. So the really big ice balls that you get that are hail is because those have been lofted in the air by super ridiculously strong winds when you think about it, and they get another layer of ice around them. So if you get a softball-sized piece of hail, which is rare, but if you do it, imagine the winds that would have to keep that up in the air for that long. I mean, 150, 200 mile an hour winds in order to keep a softball sized piece of ice up in the air. And most raindrops coalesce around little tiny specks of dust. That's how hail starts as well, which will be like a little piece of water vapor that attaches to a little piece of dust, and it gets frozen, and then instead of falling for snow, there's a whole bunch of different things. Anyway, there we go.
This is us going down the rabbit hole and the making of a Doppler meme.
I mean, if
You're the next Dallas Reigns, Josh Guesman.
If I could throw it to our weather, I would do it right now. But I don't have it. I'll just I'll work on that for next season. That'll be
yeah.
We need
I mean,
weather.
MLS weather. MLS weather at 11.
LA Galaxy playing against Seattle coming up on Saturday. For me, a very good result for this LA Galaxy team is a draw in any form whatsoever. And I know you're going to say they're hot. Let them keep running. I'm not saying they can't win this game. Seattle has some question marks right now. They are not playing as fluid as they would like, even though they did play very well on Tuesday night. I think Schmetzer's going to have to rotate a little bit. I think things are going to change, and that means it's not going to be exactly the same as it was on Tuesday, and whether or not they can adjust to that. That being said, Seattle is absolutely a difficult place to play for me, so I'm taking a draw as the final. I'll say it's going to be 1-1. It'll be low scoring, but it'll be 1-1. What do you say, Christian?
So you're not going to put me on the spot, but you just put me on the spot. So, I mean, I agree. Score draw. You get a point out of Seattle with a team, like I said, it will have every bit of motivation behind them. That said, though, the Galaxy know that they're up against an opponent that are the best in the business. We know the respect that Greg Vanney gives to Brian Schmetzer. So the Galaxy will be up for this fight. But you come out with a point in Seattle away from home, and considering, what's coming up next here when you got LAFC down the road and Orlando coming up, a week from this Saturday here, the schedule is not going to be easy. I mean, that's why I was, kind of shaking a little bit when we talked about, what's coming up ahead, and that LAFC game coming up right after that Orlando game, I do believe. So the schedule gets a lot tougher than it's been. I mean, I know NYCFC. God, why do I always mess that up? It's a mouthful.
There's too many C's. There's too many. That's why. Yeah.
I just, I've never been to full buy-in on NYCFC, but anyway, early season form for them, great result. But this is where the rubber hits the road for me, and this is where this kind of season, realistically starts. And to get a result right there, then people are really going to sit up and take notice and go, this team is not a pretender whatsoever. They are a legitimate contender, and I think it's a massive test.
LA Galaxy play at Seattle on Saturday, home to Orlando the following weekend on the 19th. And then it's going to be Portland versus LA coming up on 4/3. And then it's the LAFC game, the El Tráfico, on April 9th. You have Chicago. The LA Galaxy will take a trip to Chicago on April 16th. Then it's LA Galaxy hosting Nashville, which we just got done talking about, on April 23rd. Tough. And then April 30th, it is going to Salt Lake. So the Galaxy will head to Salt Lake for a 12:30 p.m. game on April 30th. You said 1-1, you think? 1-1 is
score draw. There will be goals in this game. And God, I forgot about that Portland game, another one of your plastic pitch Supremos. I mean, good God. Then you go to Real Salt Lake, which is like a box of cobras. You don't know what the heck's going to come out of that place. Good Lord, by the way, Chicago.
We don't talk about RSL. We on this program talk about it. I don't think it gets talked about enough.
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about RSL.
We don't. It's, every time I say that to my son, I go, "We don't talk about Bruno." He goes, "No." I'm like, exactly. But RSL's field is extremely difficult to play on. It's hard. It's bouncy. It's almost like it's plastic.
It's natural plastic.
Yeah, it is natural plastic. It has a little more give to it in some areas, but that's a hard place to play as well.
Ball travels with the altitude.
The Galaxy you get 3 games in March, right? We eased into it. 1 game in February because you played basically on the last day of the month. Then you get 3 games in March. Then it's 5 games in April, 5 games in May. There's a break in June, so you get 2 games in June, and then 6 games in July, 6 games in August, 4 games in September, 2 games in October. So a lot of stuff still to go through for the LA Galaxy. We're at the very opening of this game number 3, week number 3 against the Seattle Sounders coming up. Christian, anything else that you want to get to before we shut this one down?
No, I think we've kind of talked to her blue in the face, so to speak. I'm looking forward to the opening of Los Dos, LA Galaxy 2 this weekend. And a chance to see some of these like young guns, like we were talking about, like Marcus Fercranis, as well as the likes of Jalen Neal is going to see some time on loan from the Galaxy. So yeah, exciting times, and I think as you get into week 3, fitter. We're talking about this is where the real deal starts. We see the real character of our teams and coming through. So I'm really excited, and also thanks to you, buddy, for having me on. Always fun to come on and talk everybody's ear off about the Galaxy.
Hey, it's always a good time. Tell people where they can find you. We'll get on out of here.
C-Mile Sports, people, ESPN Plus for LA Galaxy 2 games, and of course you can catch myself and Joe Titino and or the Case. Sometimes they're together, sometimes they're not. We're still trying to work it out. LAGalaxy.com or on YouTube during match day streams. So if you can't catch us on network TV, tune in there. Or heck, just tune us in anyway, wherever you want. So LAGalaxy.com for those games.
Perfect. There you go. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our videos, all of our podcasts, all that stuff can be found cornerofthegalaxy.com. All right. I think that does it. I'm done. I'm tired. Christian's done. He's tired. So we're going to call it. LA Galaxy play against Seattle Sounders coming up on Saturday, 12:30 p.m. TV time, and a 12:55 kickoff. All right, for Mr. Christian Miles, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.